Today, I am going to tell you the story of a jailbreak that is considered a masterpiece in the world of prison escapes. 3 prisoners managed to escape overnight from a jail, but then something happened that completely shook them. What makes this jailbreak different from others is that these prisoners neither escaped through any tunnel nor with the help of prison yard guards. The method they chose to escape could have easily cost them their lives if there had been even a slight mistake. It took these prisoners almost 6 months to plan this escape, and they successfully escaped from the jail without leaving a single clue behind. 2 big questions arise in this jailbreak story. First, what kind of planning did they do in those 6 months that allowed them to escape from such a high-security jail? Second, what happened after their escape that took this story in a completely unexpected direction? The story begins at Orange County Jail, where at 5 o'clock in the morning, guards go on their routine round to count the prisoners. As they reach one particular cell during their round, they are left shocked at what they see. All 3 beds are covered with sheets, and all 3 prisoners are missing. This jailbreak took place in 2016 in California's Orange County Jail, a jail where even a bird couldn't flutter its wings. It was a 6-story prison that housed some of the world's most dangerous criminals. On each floor, around 300 prisoners were locked up. Since all cells were lined up next to each other with iron bars, and the guards constantly monitored the prisoners during their rounds, there was no place to hide, let alone escape. But there was one prisoner who managed to find a way to escape from this impossible setup. His name was Naeri, who was originally from Iran. Since his trial was just a few months away, he decided it was now or never, and began to plan a jailbreak unlike anything seen before. Before we find out how Naeri escaped, we need to understand how he ended up in jail in the first place, and how his criminal journey began. Naeri was born into a Persian family in Iran. Not long after his birth, his parents moved to Fresno, California. From childhood, he was very intelligent and clever, which is why he believed in breaking rules. By the age of 17, he had joined the U.S. Marines, but was discharged shortly after. That's where his life took a turn that changed everything. By 2012, he had already committed several dangerous crimes. Once, he killed a man involved in marijuana cultivation and chopped his body into pieces. This was the kind of crime that would have landed Naeri in prison for life. To avoid arrest, he fled to Iran, where the police couldn't touch him. He lived in Iran for about 2 years, but eventually the police used his wife to trap him and trick him into returning to California. As soon as he returned, the police arrested him and sent him to Orange County Jail. For most prisoners, this jail would mean the end of their life. But for Naeri, it was just the beginning. The trial was still 6 months away, and he knew very well that he had to escape before the trial started. Even though the jail was equipped with high security, as they say, every strong system has a weak point, and this jail was no exception. Naeri constantly thought about ways to escape. Then he noticed something no one else had paid attention to: a ventilation grill next to the bed in his cell. For others, it was just an ordinary thing, but for Naeri, it was a possible escape route. The grill was made of steel, tightly sealed from all sides, and removing it was a huge challenge. Even if he managed to get inside, there was no guarantee he could escape completely. Despite the risks, Naeri decided he would cut through the grill, but he also knew he couldn't do this alone. He chose to involve 2 other prisoners in his plan. That's when he met Bak Duong and Jonathan Tiu. Bak Duong was a seasoned criminal and gangster with contacts working for him outside. Jonathan was a member of a Vietnamese gang caught by the police. Naeri shared his plan with them, and both of them immediately agreed to be part of it. Now, the biggest challenge was how to remove the ventilation grill. They decided to use a saw blade to cut through it. Among the 3, Bak Duong had connections outside the jail, so Naeri asked him to use those contacts to smuggle in a saw blade. Slowly, their plan began to take shape. Bak managed to get a saw blade smuggled into the jail with the help of one of his friends. This friend visited him in jail and hid the blade inside the sole of his shoe handing it over to Bach without the guards noticing. Nayeri's idea had now turned into a functioning plan that had to be executed quickly. As part of their strategy, it was decided that two of them would cut the steel grill and the third one would keep watch at the cell door for any signs of guards. Every night at 9:00 p.m., once the guards finished their final round, Bach and Jonathan would silently begin cutting the steel ventilation grill. They had to be extremely careful. Even a small sound or misstep could have ruined their plan and increased their punishment. As Nayeri's trial date came closer, they had no time to waste. After about 16 days of continuous effort, they successfully cut through the steel band. But now, they faced another problem. Beyond the steel grill was a narrow passage, so dark that they couldn't see anything. It was so tight that they weren't sure if all three of them could even crawl through it. They were confused and anxious. Would they be able to escape through the ventilation duct or not? But since they had no other option, they decided to move forward anyway. After cutting the steel vent, they hid it near the edge of the bed. And the guards doing rounds were completely unaware that a jailbreak was being planned right under their noses. Now, the big question before all of them was, how would they cross such a narrow corridor? Because they had no map of the jail and no idea where which path would lead. The corridor was in complete blackout. That's when a genius idea strikes Nayeri. They spotted the one explosive they could see. The sign of a genius. Nayeri, he tells his other two companions that they would need a mobile phone, because the flashlight of that phone could help them light up the corridor, and at the same time, Nayeri also wanted to record their jailbreak on the mobile. To arrange the phone, he again turns to Bach Duong, thinking, if Bach could arrange the saw, he could also manage to get a phone inside. Though getting the phone in was much more difficult than smuggling the saw, Bach's connections were so strong that he could get anything into the jail. And this time, too, he manages to get a phone inside. However, this time, to bring in the phone, a guard had to be bribed, who then delivered the phone to Bach. Once they got hold of the phone, the first thing they did was turn on the flashlight and shine it into the pitch deck corridor. With the light, they could now see clearly which duct goes where, what things they had to cross, and which path would lead them outside. Though they could have arranged a torch, Nayeri insisted on a mobile phone so he could record their jailbreak and show the world how much of an artist he was. Now, whenever they entered the narrow corridor, Nayeri would start recording, believing that their jailbreak would become an example for other inmates and even jailers. The inside of the ventilation system had a network of pipes, along with several open spaces that led directly into guard cabins. If they took even one wrong turn, they could end up right in the hands of the jail authorities. Anyway, they slowly started crawling through the vent and began entering it every night, trying to understand every corner of the jail, which pipe leads where, and how each passage was connected. The space inside the vent was so tight that they had difficulty breathing, and a constant fear haunted them. What if they got caught? Weeks passed like this, and finally, they discovered a path that could lead them out. But with it came another problem. The vent's exit didn't open to the ground, but rather onto a roof, and the entire roof was surrounded by spiked wires. Seeing this crushed all their hopes, because this roof was on the 6th floor, way too high above the ground. They had no idea how to escape from here. They had already spent so much time cutting the vent and finding the route, and now they were wondering, should they jump from the roof or try to find another way? Because now, only 3 months were left before Nayeri's trial. They had to decide quickly. They also needed a map to understand the area around the jail. To arrange the map, Nayeri started observing the people inside the jail, looking for someone he could manipulate to get the map. They studied the maps in the jail, looking for someone he could manipulate to get the map. That's when he noticed a woman, Nusha Faran Ravaji, who taught English to the inmates in the jail. Although Nayeri's English was already good, he used his Iranian background as a reason to join her English classes, just to get close to her. All the prisoners called Nusha Faran by the name Nusha. She was kind-hearted and always saw the good in people, and Nayeri took advantage of this quality. He started behaving very nicely with Nusha, and soon won her trust, completely unaware that she was about to become an unintentional part of his escape plan. As his plan progressed, Nayeri told Nusha that his lawyer wasn't coming to visit him and that he needed the address of the lawyer's office. In truth, he already knew the address, which was very close to the jail. He asked Nusha if she could bring him a map of the area near the lawyer's office, because he knew that such a map would also include the jail and the surrounding areas. Without suspecting anything, Nusha brought him the map, thinking she was just helping a troubled inmate. She had no idea that she had just handed Nayeri the key to escape from jail. The map had everything Nayeri needed, including the layout of the jail's rooftop and the exact route to escape once they were on the roof. With the map in hand, they were now very close to executing their plan. They had a saw, a mobile phone, and now a map. But the biggest challenge was still ahead: the ventilation duct that led upward toward the roof. They had to climb it to reach the roof. Though it seemed almost impossible, Nayeri came up with a solution. He decided they would use bed sheets from the jail. They would turn the bed sheets into ropes, tie them together, and then use the pipes inside the duct to pull themselves up to the roof. So they started stealing bed sheets one by one from the jail laundry and hiding them under their beds. Once they had enough sheets, they tied them into a rope and went into the vent at night to fasten it to a pipe. One thought was eating away at Nayeri day and night. What if they got caught? If any other prisoner saw them, they could inform the guards and the entire plan would be ruined. That's why they had to act fast, but also very silently, which is why everything was taking longer. Each night, they would go under the vent and continue their preparation. It took them about 5 months to prepare everything, and finally, Nayeri managed to reach the rooftop, the final point of escape. But his joy was short-lived, because there were cameras all over the roof. However, luck was on his side. All the cameras were facing the opposite direction while they were planning to escape from the other side. Although Nayeri had reached the roof, when he looked down, his body went cold. The height from the roof to the ground was nearly 100 feet, and falling from there could mean certain death. Now only one obstacle remained between them and escape: how to get down from the roof. Nayeri went back inside the jail and told his 2 companions that they would need a rope. Though Bach had already smuggled in a saw and a mobile phone, a large rope was very difficult to sneak in. If they failed at this final step, the entire plan would fall apart. But Bach came up with a brilliant and unique solution. He told his friend, during a visit, to throw the rope onto the roof using a drone late at night, so when they escaped to the roof, they could use the rope to climb down. Bach's plan worked, and they successfully arranged for the rope to be dropped on the jail's roof. Now, they were fully ready to escape. The 3 of them decided they would escape the next night, but the timing of the escape was the most important thing, because the guards checked all cells twice a day, once at 5 o'clock IEM and once at 8 o'clock p.m. They decided to escape right after the 8 o'clock p.m. round, and they waited for the night to fall. Finally, the time had come. They were going to escape. After 8 o'clock p.m., the 3 of them, one by one, began entering the ventilation duct. They start climbing upward slowly by holding the bed sheets, but they had to cover a height of 5 feet, and they constantly feared that if even one knot of the bed sheets came loose, they would either get injured or get caught. It took them almost an hour to reach the roof using the bed sheet, and finally they managed to get to the roof from where the entire city was visible. As soon as they reached the roof, they first picked up the rope that Bach's associate had thrown onto the roof via a drone. Now came their real test, because climbing down the roof using the rope was very difficult and could even cost them their lives. They had to climb down with no safety gear, only relying on the rope, and if the guards spotted them during this time, their entire plan could be ruined. First, they tied the rope to a pipe. Then, Jonathan tied the rope around his waist and slowly started descending. In about half an hour, he reached the ground, and seeing this, Bak and Nayeri breathed a sigh of relief. Then, Bak tied the rope around himself and also climbed down. Now, only Nayeri was left among the three, and he too tied the rope and began to descend. But he had only gone down 3 floors when a new problem arose. There was a police station in front of the jail, and 2 police officers came outside for a smoke. Seeing this, Nayeri froze mid-air, and his heartbeat began to race. So he stayed still, hanging silently in the air, because, even by mistake, if the police officers spotted him, it would all be over. Now he started feeling like all his months of planning and hard work were going to waste. But luck favored him again. The police officers finished their cigarettes and went back inside the police station. Because of hanging for too long, Nayeri's grip was weakening. But as soon as the officers went back inside, he quickly climbed down. And in this way, all 3 of them had escaped from the jail. There were only 5 hours left until the next count, at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they needed to get as far away as possible as quickly as they could. Bak had already made arrangements for this. A gang member of Bak had earlier hidden $900, 0 cents cash, and a gun in a packet at a certain location so that they could use this cash during the escape. Now, their first step was to change their appearance. For this, Bak called a taxi driver named Lumba and asked him to take them to the market for shopping. After returning from shopping, they had new clothes, food, and all the things they would need going forward. Now they asked Lumba to drop them 800 km away, to which Lumba refused, but then they pointed a gun at Lumba. Their plan was to cross the Mexico border and escape from where Nayeri would go to Iran. But suddenly, they changed their plan and asked Lumba to take them 800 km in the opposite direction toward a port. Though this was a very confusing decision, the 3 of them had successfully escaped from jail. Meanwhile, at the Orange County Jail, no one had any idea that 3 prisoners had escaped. Around 5 o'clock in the morning, when 2 guards came to check the cells, they realized that Nayeri, Bak, and Jonathan had escaped. But by then, it was too late. Upon discovering this, the guards immediately sounded the jail alarm. Police officers from the nearby police station rushed into the jail, and soon 250 officers were put on the case. News of this jailbreak spread like wildfire across America, and it started being shown on news channels. A crowd of press gathered outside the jail. The 3 inmates had gone into hiding in a San Jose City motel so the police couldn't find them. But their faces were now being shown on every news channel, making it harder for them to hide day by day. They were sitting in the hotel room, watching themselves on TV. That's when they realized that the entire Los Angeles police force was after them. Nayeri started to realize the severity of the trouble he was in, because now they were running out of cash, and anyone could recognize them just by seeing the TV. Seeing this, they decided they would leave the hotel, but for that, they needed a van. Bak started looking for a second-hand van so they could escape. That's when he saw a van listed online for sale. Bak called the van owner and fixed a meeting. After meeting, they asked the owner for a test drive, and the owner agreed, unaware that Bak was never going to return the van. Now they were completely ready to leave the hotel, but there was still one last problem in front of them. Lumba, the cab driver who had brought them. He was the only eyewitness who knew everything about them. Nayeri understood very well that if they left behind any witnesses or evidence, they would be caught. So he decided that he would kill Lumba. When he told Bak Duong this, Bak flatly refused and told Nayeri that Lumba had helped them in their worst time and he wouldn't do this to him. This led to a fight between Nayeri and Bak. Then they agreed to think about it later. From this point on, the countdown to their freedom had begun. Anyway, the next morning, Nayeri and Jonathan left to get the van windows tinted, and Bak took the opportunity to go to Lumba and told him, "We have to get out of here as soon as possible. Nayeri wants to kill you." When Lumba asked Bak where they would run off to, Bak gave an answer that left him stunned. Bak told Lumba that he wanted to return to jail because his photo was being shown on every news channel and sooner or later he was going to be caught. Meanwhile, when Nayeri and Jonathan returned to the hotel, they saw that Bak Duong had already run away. Now they realized they could be caught at any moment, so they quickly packed their clothes and left in the van heading west. Now they had no place to hide, and their money was running out. This caused them many problems, and they started feeling like escaping from jail had been a huge mistake. On the other hand, the police investigating the case were still empty-handed. Even though their photos were being shown on news channels, the police still had no leads. But then, the police got a tip that changed the direction of the whole jailbreak investigation. Bak Duong and Lumba had returned to Orange County. And there, Bak did something that no one had ever imagined. Bak walked into a hardware store and told each employee there that he was an escaped prisoner and asked them to call the police. There was a strategy behind Bak's move. He wasn't just surrendering himself to the police. His eyes were on the reward being offered for providing information about the fugitives. Bak became the first prisoner in history to turn himself in and try to collect the reward by giving up information about himself and his companions. So he told the police everything about Nayeri, Jonathan, and the van. Now the police had details about both the inmates in the van, and this information was now being shown on news channels, increasing Nayeri and Jonathan's troubles. And finally, what they feared most happened. Nayeri and Jonathan took the van and arrived at a supermarket parking lot, and there a man sitting by the roadside recognized them. Because he had seen their faces and the van on the news, the two of them went inside the supermarket to do some shopping, and during this time the man informed the police. Unaware of this, Nayeri and Jonathan came out of the supermarket and saw that the police had surrounded them from all sides. Jonathan quietly surrendered, but Nayeri still didn't give up. He tried one last time to run away, but failed in the attempt. The police brought him down and arrested him. Nayeri brought him down and arrested him. The police brought him down and arrested him. In the end, Nayeri's brilliant jailbreak had failed, and all three prisoners were taken back to their cells in Orange County Jail. Their freedom had lasted only 2 days, but this jailbreak had forced guards and police to rethink the entire jail system. After this jailbreak, many fingers were pointed at Orange County Jail, and strict surveillance was placed on it. Several jail guards were fired. News channels and the public started asking the same question. How did this even happen? After this, motion cameras were installed throughout the jail. Prisoners were given GPS tracker badges to monitor their location. A dog squad was also appointed to detect tools and equipment like phones entering the jail. In addition, inmate counting was increased to 3 times a day. After this jailbreak, Bak Duong's sentence was increased by 20 years in total, and the mastermind of the jailbreak, Nayeri, who was already accused of murder, was sentenced to life imprisonment, without the possibility of parole. This was the story of an epic jailbreak, brilliantly executed, but due to internal conflict, all the inmates were caught.